Imagine someone invites you to a Saturday night party, but on Sunday morning you want to go to church for the service. And instead of staying out late, you'd rather read a book in your pajamas before bed. Not because you dislike people, but simply because this feels right to you. This feeling has existed for thousands of years, and it's exactly what we're explaining in this video. You're not alone in feeling this way, and psychologists say there is nothing wrong with it. In fact, it's more common than you think, and the psychology behind it may surprise you. Introversion is a normal personality trait, not a disorder. Introverts prefer depth over quantity. They recharge when they are alone and feel tired after too much social interaction. Here's something most people don't expect. Even though church gatherings often look very social and outgoing, studies consistently show that introverts score higher in religiosity than extroverts. They simply express their faith in a quiet, personal, and internal way, not in a loud or visible one. This doesn't mean extroverts can't be sincere believers. It just means that visible faith is not the same as strong faith. Here's what often happens to Christian introverts. Christian introverts often feel misunderstood because society, and even many churches, prefer loud and visible expressions of faith. Their faith is more inward and deeply personal. Research suggests that quiet, reflective people may actually have a deeper religious commitment, even if they are less noticeable. This pattern appears even in modern secular societies, which shows that the connection between introversion and inner faith is not limited to church tradition. Introverts don't need an audience to feel genuine in their faith. They already know who they are. And here's something interesting. Statistics show that people who attend church are almost evenly split by personality type. This means about half of the people in church are introverts. They aren't rare, they're just quiet. One of the strongest findings in psychology is that people who value discipline, duty, and order are more likely to practice religion consistently. Personality affects how people practice their faith more than whether they believe. Here are the findings of pastors and theologians who closely observe church life. Church culture often assumes extroversion is the norm, even though many Christians are introverts. Modern churches are often built around extroverted behavior, group activities, public prayer, discussion, and visibility. Because of this, introverted Christians are frequently misunderstood. Their quiet nature is seen as lack of involvement and their privacy as weak faith, which is not true at all. This pressure to act more outgoing often leads to exhaustion, guilt, or even withdrawal from church life. This idea isn't new. It goes back thousands of years. Christian tradition has always supported quiet, introverted spirituality. Practices like solitude, contemplation, silence, and humility were never minor ideas. They were central. These weren't created for modern introverts. They were how faith was lived for centuries. Some of the earliest Christians deliberately left noisy society to live quietly, focusing on prayer and inner transformation. Christian monks are one of the clearest historical examples of introverted spirituality. From the earliest centuries of Christianity, monks chose silence, solitude, humility, and deep reflection as a way to grow closer to God. What we now call introverted traits were once seen as spiritual strengths. Many famous Christians in history, such as C.S. Lewis and Isaac Newton, were introverts. They prove that introversion is not a weakness. In fact, it can be a strength. These individuals spent much of their lives in deep thought and solitude, and their ideas shaped both Christian thinking and science. Their influence came not from being loud, but from clarity, discipline, and depth. And if these aren't enough proof, here is someone who represents the ultimate proof that silence and solitude are an important part of spiritual life: Jesus Christ. Although he often spent time with people to teach, help, and serve, Jesus regularly withdrew to be alone and pray in silence. He went to quiet places, away from crowds, to reflect and pray. So if you're someone who likes to think deeply, who doesn't need an audience to display their faith, who isn't afraid to stay home on a Saturday night, remember that this is completely normal, both logically and, more importantly, in the eyes of God. If this video made sense to you, please give it a like. And consider subscribing because the next one may speak to you even more.